So good morning or afternoon or evening. My name is Beck Barnes, publisher and editor of Cotton Grower Magazine, and I want to welcome y'all again back to the world famous Cotton Companion podcast. Whether you are joining us from Altus, Oklahoma, or Albany, Georgia, or from any other dot on the vast Cotton Belt map, I want to thank y'all for joining us sincerely. I'm joined today, as always, by my guy, my partner in crime, CG's Cotton Grower Senior Editor, Mr. Jim Steadman. Howdy, Jim.
Hello, Beck. How are you? I'm also waiting to see how much feedback you're going to get on pronouncing Albany as Albany.
You know, I told my story about Albany. I was corrected once in a gas station in South Georgia.
Of course you were.
For pronouncing Albany as Albany, Georgia, and the lady behind the counter, I swear to y'all, told me that you're supposed to pronounce it Albany. And so I told that story to some Georgia guys out at this event I was at in Phoenix last month, a Delta Pine event, and they laughed and said, no, it's not Albany at all. So now I'm more confused than I've ever been. So I should probably have avoided that particular town as I did my silly little town intro.
But that's
that I
okay.
always do.
That's okay.
Yeah. So anyhow,
nobody expects perfection out of us.
Certainly not out of me. So as we get started here, we want to take a brief moment to hear from our sponsors, the fine folks at Phytogen.
Phytogen is pleased to sponsor the Cotton Companion, bringing you the latest news to help you thrive all season long.
All right, so we hope that you guys are doing okay as we are hitting the Game of Thrones north of the wall days of winter right now. There's White Walkers out there. There's tons of snow across the country, including in parts of the Cotton Belt. And so it's certainly that time of year where we hope you're kicked up by the fire in the evening. You keep a nice hot coffee with you throughout the morning and the day. So or rather I should say Jim, is fresh back from the Beltwide Cotton Conferences, where a lot of news was made this week. A lot of the companies were kind of making waves and using that occasion to make announcements. So I was happy that our man Jim was down there. It's always nice to get down there, I know, to see all of the familiar faces and all of our friends from across the industry, and I know Jim enjoyed that. I also suspect that he ate a lot of very good New Orleans cuisine, which I did not eat, and so I'm rather jealous of him at the moment. But
I'm nodding, but I'm not going into details.
Yeah. So I hope that all y'all had a good time. Those of you who are fresh back from New Orleans and the Beltwide Cotton Conferences this year, we will be talking about that as we get into the podcast here. One note that I want to mention about the Beltwide Cotton Conferences, there may be some of you who were there who were wondering about our Achievement Award. Over the years, we have traditionally handed our Achievement Award out there at the Beltwide Cotton Conferences. We did not this year. We have a little bit of a new program. We have a new sponsor, the fine folks at Americot. Next Gen Cottonseed from Americot is the sponsor. They've done a great job with supporting our program this year, and we're happy for them. We did not do the luncheon there this year because our winner is from the Mid-South, and so we are changing up our program. We're going to start handing the physical the physical trophy out to our honorees at a location based on where the grower is from through the years. And so this year's winner is a great guy, Mr. Bowen Flowers out of Clarksdale, Mississippi. And so accordingly, we are going to hand him his trophy at the Mid-South Farm and Gin shows here in a little over a month, those very first couple of days of March. So stick with us there. You'll see the story on Mr. Flowers in the January issue of Cotton Grower. He's a very deserving Cotton Achievement Award honoree, and so look for us at Beltwide Cotton Conferences if you're planning on coming to that thing. And don't be mad at us if you didn't if you were planning on having lunch with us in New Orleans. We apologize. We hope we're able to feed you at some other event down the road sometime. So we got a great episode in store for y'all today. We are going to be reviewing all of the ag news of the past week. As always, before we dive into our market moment, that's where Jim has wrangled in an interview from our friend, the very smart Mr. Jarrell Neeper, who Jim caught up with in New Orleans at Beltwide. Jim, can you kind of tell me what y'all talked about?
Well, there was a lot of discussion at Beltwide, obviously, about cotton economics and where the market is headed right now. and particularly in face of the government shutdown, which has impacted USDA's ability to provide a lot of reports and other marketing information that the industry tends to rely on, particularly for cotton movement and pricing and things like that. So Jarrell and I sat down and talked a little bit about the overall world economy and the fact that really the market for cotton has been slowing down gradually over the past year, and really kind of the whole impact of that, and then a little discussion on the availability of market information. So it's about 6 minutes worth of good information from Jarrell, who's a pretty well known cotton marketing expert in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. I was glad to see you tracked him down. So after that interview, we are going to spend our One Big Thing segment, our last kind of feature segment of each episode. We call the One Big Thing segment. And today we're going to be discussing our Acreage survey, which dropped this week as the January issue is hitting mailboxes. That is sort of how we're announcing our Acreage survey results this year. And it's already been mentioned by several of the market analysts and price watchers, cotton price market watchers. In there, I know Dr. O.A. Cleveland mentioned our survey in his analysis that he put out this week. So we're going to review what we learned, how we learned it, and sort of what y'all told us about the forces that are shaping your planting thoughts. They're not planting decisions at this point. It's still early, but we know that y'all are always thinking about what you might do come planting time next year, so we'll explore that further later in the episode. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here, so let's go ahead and dive right in with Jim and his news items. Boy, he's got a few of them coming out of New Orleans, so we're gonna keep them efficient as we can.
Okay, and I'll keep things as efficient and quickly as I can too. But there's some items that we definitely need to note. The first one is obviously due to the government shutdown. USDA announced last week that they are extending the application deadline for the market facilitation program for those for the payments that are provided as part of the agency's trade mitigation program. The original deadline was January 15th, which would be right upon us. But due to the closure of USDA Farm Service Agency's offices at the end of business on December 28th, any farmer who's wanting to apply certainly has been unable to do so. So according to Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue, the application deadline will now be extended for the same period of time equal to the number of days the FSA offices are closed once the government shutdown ends. So keep an eye out on that. Obviously, farmers who have already applied for the program and certified their 2018 production have continued to receive payments as part of the trade mitigation program. Next item, back in November, we started getting information from seed companies on new varieties for 2019, and at that time BASF came to us with talking about 5 new FiberMax and Stoneville varieties. Now, based on some additional results from the company's agronomic performance trial program, they have added 5 additional FiberMax and Stoneville varieties for 2019, including, as has been rumored, 2 varieties that contain dicamba-tolerant traits. I'm going to run through these really quickly. There are Stoneville 5600 B2XF, fits really across a large part of the cotton belt and based on a grower's conditions and soil type, but that's the first of the dicamba tolerant products or varieties. The second one is ST5707 B2XF, which basically is a mid to full season variety for West Texas and eastern New Mexico dryland and limited irrigation acres. A third Stoneville variety, 4550 GLTP, an early mid-maturing variety targeted to the Mid-South, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Southeast. That variety includes the Twin Link Plus technology, their 3-gene trait for worm control. And then over on the FiberMax side, you've got FiberMax 2398 GLTP, a medium maturity, semi-smooth variety with good disease package in Twin Link Plus that's targeted for the High Plains, Rolling Plains, Oklahoma, and South and East Texas. And finally, FiberMax 1621 GL, an early maturity variety for high plains acres that need root knot nematode tolerance and resistance to bacterial blight, but really don't have many issues with worm pressure. So as always, more information about these varieties and the entire lineup for FiberMax in Stoneville is available from your BASF rep and on the websites for FiberMax and for Stoneville.
Yeah, big news there. Obviously, well, it's news, big news. All of their variety announcements, but certainly the first FiberMax or Stoneville varieties with the B2XF with that Extend technology are gonna make waves this year. So we will be watching that closely. And I want to specify here that they will be available in 2019. Jim, for a brief moment while you were talking there, I accidentally hit our volume button as you were saying the word 2019. So I just want to clarify, yes, that they will be out and available commercially in 2019. So, and I will not fiddle with the volume.
Keep your fingers off the buttons, okay?
Yeah, you're right.
This is what happens when you put two amateurs in charge of of recording something.
One significantly more amateur than the other.
Okay, next item. Our friends at Americott have announced a program to offer cotton growers cash rebates on selected crop protection products when they are purchased in conjunction with some of their next-gen XtendFlex varieties. This Americott Advanced Protection Program, as they call it, allows qualifying growers to earn a rebate up to $4 per acre or more by bundling seed purchase with essential herbicides, insecticides, and Americott's enhanced seed treatment. It has the name, it looks like it's Catalyst, but I just want to make sure that I don't want to butcher that in any shape, form, or fashion. This advanced protection program is now in effect. It will apply to any qualifying purchases made until August 31st of this year. The offer is open to growers in all cotton-producing states in the U.S. where the next-gen brand of cottonseed is sold. Again, there are a lot of details about eligibility requirements and specific product options for the programs. Interested growers should contact their participating next-gen seed dealer or next-gen representative, or check online at americott.com/programs. You should find all the details there.
Yeah, very cool program out of Americott there. They're doing a lot of neat stuff out there out of their Lubbock home base. Of course, they got varieties for across the belt, but they're getting their fingers into a lot of cool stuff this year.
Absolutely. Our next item comes from Phytogen. Phytogen is partnering with Cotton Incorporated's Blue Jeans Go Green denim recycling program to organize denim collection drives in some targeted cotton-producing communities. Basically, the Blue Jeans Go Green program works by recycling worn-out denim into housing insulation to help keep textile waste out of landfills and help with building efforts like Habitat for Humanity in communities around the country. It's a really great program. Many well-known retail brands have joined this program since it began in 2006. Phytogen becomes the first cottonseed program to partner with Cotton Incorporated on this. So with the support of the National FFA Foundation and local FFA chapters, Phytogen is coordinating denim collection drives across the Cotton Belt in 2019. In addition to collecting denim at local cotton grower meetings, Phytogen denim drop-off locations will also be found at the World Ag Expo February 12th through the 14th in Tulare, California, at the Mid-South Farm and Gin Show March 1st and 2nd in Memphis, at the Texas Cotton Ginners Association Trade Show April 4th and 5th in Lubbock, and at the Sunbelt Field Day, which is set for July 25th in Moultrie, Georgia. So, good for Phytogen on joining in on this exciting program that has benefited not only the cotton industry, but also the folks with Habitat and other building programs across the country.
Absolutely. Very cool of Cotton Inc. and very cool of Phytogen to jump in there as well.
Absolutely. And finally, congratulations to Dr. Tyson Raper, who's the Extension Cotton Specialist for the University of Tennessee and a good friend of Cotton Grower, who was named the 2019 Beltwide Cotton Specialist of the Year this past week. The award, which is based on a vote of the country's cotton specialists, was presented during the Beltwide Cotton Conferences, a special dinner during the conferences earlier this month in New Orleans. So well-deserved honor for Tyson.
100% well-deserved. Y'all, this is a little inside baseball, but if there is ever a time where I'm absolutely up against the wall scrambling for a quote, I know for a fact that Tyson Raper will get back to an email or a phone call with you probably have the same experience with him. He is just great about always lending us his time and expertise whenever we need something for him, which of course doesn't win you the Extension Cotton Specialist of the Year award, but it does make you a nice guy. So we're happy for him.
Absolutely.
Is that our last item? Okay.
That's our last news item. I'm done.
I was waiting for you to jump in with another there. Okay. Well, thank you, Jim, as always, for having your finger on the pulse of what's going on down out there in the Cotton Belt. So for now, we want to pause and bring y'all a message from our sponsors, Phytogen. Our custom content editor, Robin Sickberg, had the chance recently to sit down with a Phytogen cotton development specialist, Dr. Robert Lemon, who we know and like a lot. So we're happy to hear from Dr. Lemon and from Robin right now.
Good afternoon. I'm Robin Sittberg of Meister Media Worldwide, publisher of Cotton Grower Magazine. I am back on this episode with Dr. Robert Lemon, Phytogen Cotton Development Specialist. So welcome to the show, Robert.
Thanks, Robin. Glad to be here.
I know when we spoke last time, we talked about the yield and quality of the different Phytogen W3FE varieties. And I'm wondering if this time we can talk about how growers can protect that yield and quality.
Yeah, Robin, great. That's a great question. One of the things that we really focus on in our Phytogen breeding program is what we call Phytogen breeding traits. So we've built in some traits that provide resistance and tolerance, if you will, to a lot of disease problems and nematode problems that our growers face. So primarily, one of the things that we're really proud of is all of the Enlist varieties, Robin, are bacterial blight resistant, which is a nasty bacterial disease of cotton. And then we've also followed that up with nematode tolerance. And right now in our varieties, we have several that are root knot nematode resistant, which is a huge plus when you think about how important that nematode complex is across the Cotton Belt, not only in Texas, but obviously the Mid-South and the Southeast as well. And we're getting close to following up that root knot nematode resistance, Robin, with also reniform nematode resistance. So great things going on at Phytogen from a breeding trait perspective is along the lines of nematodes. In addition to that, we are working diligently on providing tolerance to Fusarium race 4, which is a nasty, virulent strain of Fusarium that hopefully no one ever sees, but we do know we have that in the western part of the Cotton Belt. So a lot of exciting breeding going on at Phytogen, not just yield and quality, but the kind of traits that we feel our customers need to protect that yield and quality.
And I'm sure there's a number of examples that you could probably cite where growers have been able to successfully use these varieties where they were having problems with some of these diseases previously. Are there any anecdotal examples you can give us?
Yeah, Robin, the root knot nematode tolerance that we built into several of our varieties really does show the benefit of that compared to varieties that do not have that trait and or using something like Telone, which is a Corteva fumigant. So when we look at this root knot nematode trait compared to varieties that don't possess it, the yield advantage that we're seeing with the root knot nematode varieties is very significant.
That's outstanding. Plus, they're saving on the labor and the cost of the inputs of trying to apply controls to all these various diseases. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is a great point, Rob. Anything we can build into that plant's genetics, something that we don't have to do from the standpoint of crop protection. And those are the kind of traits that are there 24/7, as opposed to addressing issues as they occur from a crop protection standpoint. So, yeah, anything we can do from this perspective is very beneficial.
If growers are interested in finding more information about these varieties and their different characteristics, where would they be able to find that?
The best way would be to go to our website, phytogen.com, where there's lots of good information. especially highlighting our phytogen breeding traits. And as always, we're just a phone call away. So give us a call if growers have questions.
Okay, well, thanks, Robert, for being on the program. As always, we appreciate your insight, and we're glad to have you anytime.
Robin, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Very good. So thank you, Robin and Phytogen, for that. Now, we are going to keep this thing rolling with our Market Minute. We, as mentioned earlier, Jim had the chance to sit down with
Jarrell Neeper.
Jarrell Neeper. Yeah, sorry, I'm mixing up my notes here. Jim had the chance to sit down with our old friend, Dr. Jarrell Neeper at, is Jarrell a doctor?
I have no idea.
Okay, I'm throwing in a
But he's
lot.
an expert.
There you go. He is an
expert. He's well-versed, yes.
Well-known cotton expert. And so Jim sat down with him in New Orleans this past week and talked about the cotton market. So we will bring you that interview right now.
Welcome to the first edition of the Market Minute for 2019. We're here at the Beltwide Cotton Conferences in New Orleans, and I'm joined today by Jarrell Neeper, a longtime cotton market economist who's based in California. Jarrell, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Jim.
Jarrell, during the economic session here at the Beltwide Conference, you and our good friend O.A. Cleveland discussed some of the challenges facing cotton in this current world economy, and that includes dealing with a tariff market at this point. Briefly, can you give us an overview of what's happening in this world cotton economy now, and how is it or how will it impact U.S. cotton?
Well, certainly the tariffs that China applied as a retaliatory measure against the tariffs that the U.S. applied to Chinese goods, that has impacted people's certainly Chinese buying. You've seen some small cancellations already this year. Now, some of those cancellations have been moved into the 1920 crop, when I think that people think that the Chinese and the U.S. will straighten these issues out, but we don't know if they're going to get straightened out. I mean, so that's certainly been a challenge. It's certainly put some pressure on prices, I believe. The Turkish situation, we're not selling any cotton into Turkey right now. You know, the lira has depreciated rather dramatically. U.S. cotton was already facing a little bit of a tariff in Turkey because of a retaliation against some tariffs that we had put on to, we accused Turkey a couple of years ago of dumping steel, especially rebar, into the United States. So, back and forth. And these trade issues definitely have impact over time, but generally you can sort of start to work through these things. And I think, if nothing else, the tariff situation has started to affect, the world economies. Clear signs that China is slowing down, clear signs that the European Union is slowing down. And I don't know that it has necessarily affected the United States yet. And I think that's what people are worried about, that it could impact the United States eventually.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think one of the things I saw in this presentation was, I think there was one of the slides showing here's our list of bullish items and here's our list of bearish items, and they were almost equal. Which to me immediately says, okay, we're not going to move very far market-wise from where we are right now. Is that correct?
That's correct. I mean, and I think with the exception of this market coming down, eventually, just kind of the weight of things. It pointed to market coming down a little lower. We found some good support just above 70 cents, and now we keep bumping up against resistance really above 74 cents. Of course, we all know what the next stop is 75 cents, and 75, nice round number. 80 is a big, nice round number. That's going to be a big round of resistance, but for now, 70 to 75 cents, I think we're just going to sort of just spill around in here. And we need to build a base for this market.
And just sort of let the market settle out a little
Yes,
bit.
yes. Mills, I think, are finding some good value down here. And so that's providing support underneath this market. Let's just hope that, and it's also giving them confidence that the market's not going to come down any further. You know, they will buy when they feel like the market's bottomed or when it starts going back up again and they feel like, oh, gee, I don't want to miss the boat.
Yeah, it's time to pull the trigger. Yeah. Okay. As we speak right now, we're sitting with a government shutdown, which means there's some key information and some key reports that the market normally gets, not just cotton, but all commodity markets normally get from USDA that they're just simply not available at this point. How important are those reports in terms of impacting cotton, and how's the industry going to be able to manage trade movement and information and things like that until we get sort of things back up and running again?
The information is, well, if you're big enough, you know, and you provide a lot of the information, you're not missing much.
Right.
But to most people, you know, not seeing export sales data, supposedly, you know, we've been doing some pretty good sales over the last couple of weeks. We can't see how that really, you know, how these prices have really helped us out on the export sales front. You know, the on-call position, we all like to look at. We can kind of guess. We think we can sort of guess, but that's not helping stuff. The commitment of traders, you know, we're not seeing what the relative viewpoint is of the speculators versus the trade, although we can sort of guess. So yeah, it's an inconvenience, and but I don't think it's a problem just now, unless you're one of the smaller players out there.
Right.
You know. I think if you're a bigger player and you're pretty well plugged in, you're not missing much.
Yeah, you have your sources.
Yes.
Wherever you need those sources to be.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. That's great. Jarrell, at this point, thank you for your time and insight. Appreciate you for joining us for this Market Minute. We'll be right back with the rest of this episode, The Cotton Companion.
All right, so thank you, Jim, for that. Obviously, we want to thank Jarrell Neeper for that interview as well. Always nice for him to spare some time for us and lend us his expertise. So finally, we want to move on to our One Big Thing segment. And this episode, we wanted to talk about a headline that we make at this time every year. And that's with our annual cotton grower acreage survey. So we do this thing every year. We survey the cotton belt. We use our platform, our audience, to reach out and hear from America's cotton farmers and put out the first acreage survey of the year. We put ours out it always is announced with our January issue, which is hitting mailboxes right now, and it is followed shortly by the National Cotton Council's acreage survey, when does that thing come out?
That comes out at their annual meeting in early February.
There you go. So there's that one will come out soon. And then after that, the next big one is USDA's acreage projection, which is
the end of March.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're on top of those.
Provided, of course, the government is open and running at that point.
That's right. We have
to put that caveat in there at this point.
We have our fingers crossed for that. So, but ours is the first one, and so it is kind of noteworthy in that regard. A lot of folks wait on that. In fact, we normally, this is a little inside baseball for y'all, but we normally have our issue comes out earlier. The January issue comes out earlier than other issues of ours because we'd like to have it at the Beltwide Cotton conferences. And so this acreage survey is known by the 3rd or the 4th of January because it's there at Beltwide. We didn't have it with us this year at Beltwide because we're not doing our achievement award at Beltwide this year, and thus our number wasn't known until about a week later. And man, I don't know about you, Jim, but I was getting calls. I got emails from just various market analysts, market watchers around the Cotton Belt, at least 2 or 3 while you were in New Orleans.
Right. Well, we did post the article on our website last week, so it was public as we got to Beltwide. And I agree with you. I mean, I had a number of people, come up to me and whisper in my ear, going, "Where's the marketing survey?
Right. Yeah.
Is it online yet?"
Right. Which for good and selfish reasons, I like to hear that. I like to hear that people are interested in what we have to say and come to expect it around this time every year. So a little bit about this year's actual survey. We enlisted the help. We have a audience group at our corporate office up in Willoughby, Ohio, who we got heavily involved this year to help us drum up our survey to increase audience response in our survey. And man, it paid off. We had around 400 growers from across the Cotton Belt respond to our survey this year, which is the biggest number of response as we have had since I've been involved in the survey for the past decade. So we had a great sample size. We suspect that there's not but about 12 or 13,000 of y'all who plant cotton in the entire country out there. So I figure my rough math here. Now this is Ole Miss math, so bear with me. We think that we are getting you about 1/30th of the entire subset of people in this country who grow cotton, which is pretty dang good for a sample size. I solicit input from each of the cotton specialists, each state's cotton specialist. I reach out to several knowledgeable people from the cotton associations, and also a handful of other contacts, agronomists with the national seed brands, for example, who I know and am friends with. I get their input as well. So it's sound. Our number is sound, is what I'm.
It's actually quasi-scientific.
Almost scientific. Yeah, I would almost call it scientific. But we've talked to, again, as many reasonable people as we possibly can, or rather knowledgeable people as we possibly can. So with that as your background, our number this year is 13.662 million acres of projected cotton planted in the entire U.S. Cotton Belt for 2019. That's upland and ELS combined for the Cotton Belt this year. A little bit of context on that number, 13.662 million acres. It is down moderately from 2018, when the final planted acreage total was just over 14.04 million acres across the whole Cotton Belt. But that's still a very healthy total, our projection for next year of 13.66. It would be the third most planted acres in a season of the past decade, behind only 2011. If you'll recall, prices were skyrocketing at that time, and behind last season, 2018, where, as I said, y'all planted 14.04 million. So it's a healthy total. In fact, the headline, if y'all hadn't seen our article, my headline for that story in the January issue is something like "A Healthy Appetite for Cotton." You guys are clearly still enthusiastic about planting cotton out there. So that's a good thing. It's a good thing for the industry as a whole. It's a good thing for Cotton Grower Magazine, to be sure. So we are happy that y'all are seeing the value in planting cotton for 2019. To get into what y'all told us, I think the biggest narrative, as I try to sort of extract and find narratives and common themes in the over 450 some odd responses that we got in total. A big thing was this tariff situation, and you guys are watching it. Y'all are watching its very direct impact on the commodity markets. And for cotton, it's not a great situation, but also we kind of found that soybeans' loss right now is cotton's gain, especially in the Mid-South. It just seemed like cotton was penciling out better than grain competitors while we were polling. And I know Jim would make sure that I pointed that out. We conduct our polling in November and early December is when we were getting most of these responses back. And those of you who mentioned the tariffs just told us, y'all are doing the math, of course. And we just heard that cotton is penciling out better than soybeans as a result of these sort of tariff wars. I'm always trying to think of a different way to state it than war, but these tariff standoffs. There we go, Jim. That have happened. They are having an impact on y'all's decisions. So that was a big thing in the Mid-South, where we expect to see an uptick in acreage in 2019. The Southwest was an interesting story. We have been told before that Texas is just at capacity. And as y'all know, Texas routinely plants over half of the nation's cotton. just in that one state. And so we are told quite often by smart people out there that you're not going to see cotton acres go much higher than we have seen in recent years because there's just no more ground to put them on. There's no more infrastructure to harvest it with. And so last year, 2018, there were 7.7 million acres of cotton planted in the Lone Star State. And we suspect that we may test that capacity this year. We are projecting 7.24 million acres in the Lone Star State in 2019. But we could see that go higher. People mentioned that there's more infrastructure, particularly up there in the Panhandle, where there are gens going in and more harvest equipment coming in. So the same can be said for Oklahoma and especially Kansas. I mentioned this in the last podcast, but it is going to be a huge year up there in the northern southwest. Kansas and Oklahoma are going to combine for over 1 million acres this year. I think that's what our survey told us. And as recently as 4 or 5 years ago, those states were only doing a quarter of that, around 250,000 acres, with almost nothing of that coming out of Kansas in particular. So it's going to be an interesting year in the Southwest. Moving on to the Southeast, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. We have Alabama and North Carolina growers told us that they are going to increase acreage this year. But the biggest drop looks to be in Georgia, where last year Georgia growers planted 1.4 million acres. And our survey told us that is going to drop to 1.1 million this year, with folks pointing to those hurricanes at the end of the year that really dampened a lot of the enthusiasm for cotton there in Georgia. So even with 1.1 million acres, Georgia is going to be the second biggest cotton production state, a title or a silver medal, I guess I should say, that it has held for quite some time now. But we are seeing Mississippi, which is expected to see a very large increase in acres in 2019 at 795,000 acres, and Oklahoma projected at 825,000 acres, also a gigantic increase. They're closing that gap on Georgia for the second biggest cotton production state. So I would say watch out for Oklahoma. It's interesting to see what's going on there. So that's all I had for our acreage survey.
Well, I will tell you that the survey was, factored into several of the presentations and discussions at Beltwide this year, particularly on the economic side. We've heard, I think most people were looking at it as, these are good, solid numbers. Yeah. When we start getting compliments from people with PhDs and who've looked at the market for a number of years, then we must be doing something right. So all credit to you, Mr. Barnes, for your expert ciphering on this. But there was some discussion, obviously, about our number as possibly being a good baseline, maybe just a little bit too low for what reality will be. But the more people started talking about it and talking through it, we're probably going to fall they think somewhere the acres will fall somewhere between our number of roughly 13.7 and maybe 14.3 to 14.4. We'll see. Obviously, there's still some cotton in the field from last year that growers are still trying to get out. Gens are probably going to be running all the way through March and April in certain parts of the country. Yeah. So, there's going to be a lot of last-minute decisions made at this point, and obviously some of the trade situations are going to factor into it as well. But I think we're off to a good start. I'll be curious to see, or look forward to see what the National Cotton Council comes up with their number.
I will too.
Here in several weeks.
You mentioned there's still cotton in the field right now, and I'm wrapping up this survey that I've just conducted about next year. Of the 400 some odd responses that we get from growers, there's always a handful whose response is simply, it's too early. It's very, very blunt and gruff. I've still got cotton in the field, and fair enough. I get that. I know that y'all are busy. I don't like anybody asking me anything complex while I'm behind deadline on a magazine, for example, which I am occasionally. So I understand the response that I get from farmers who say, man, it's too dang early. I'm not thinking about that. So, all right, that will just about do it for this installment of the Cotton Companion podcast. We want to thank Mr. Jarrell Neeper one last time for taking the time to talk to us and our listeners. He's been a good friend to us, and we appreciate his work. So once again, We also thank Phytogen for sponsoring us, and we thank you, dear listener, sincerely for joining us. If you like what you're hearing, by all means, tell your buddies about our podcast. They can get to us in 3 easy ways. The first is going to cottongrower.com/companion. That'll take you to a landing page where each of our 39 this is the 39th episodes are listed on that landing page. So go to our website. You'll find us there. The second is to subscribe to our channels on iTunes. If you're familiar with iTunes, you know how to do it there. Simply search for the Cotton Companion podcast in that app on your Apple product. The third and best way to listen to every episode of the Cotton Companion podcast is to subscribe to the weekly Cotton Grower e-newsletter, which Jim here works hard to put together each week. He packs it with the relevant news of the day, and those things hit your email inbox like clockwork each Tuesday morning. And you can do that by going to cottongrower.com/subscribe, and you'll be able to easily subscribe to our e-newsletter there. Also, finally, make sure you are following us on social media. We are at Cotton Grower Mag on Twitter, and on Facebook you can find us by searching for Cotton Grower Magazine. Simple enough. We hope that you are enjoying our latest issue, which should be the January issue at this point. There's a lot of good stuff in there, and we hope that you do enjoy. This podcast is produced by Mr. Tyler Hatch, who works at the mothership Meister Media Worldwide in lovely Willoughby, Ohio. My name is Beck Barnes, and I'll be back with you in 2 weeks for the next installment of the Cotton Companion podcast. For now, on behalf of my own Cotton Companion, Jim Steadman, we wish you and your family and your operation all the best.
And he works all day. God made it fun.
Phytogen thanks you for listening to this edition of the Cotton Companion. To learn how you can thrive with Phytogen, go to phytogen.com.